Hey folks, I'm back. And today I'm going to say something that might irk some other developers and they might not agree with, but I don't care. I think that every developer should have, at the very least, a bare minimum respect for design and user experience. In fact, I'm going to take that one step further and I'm going to say that every developer, whether they're front end or back end, it really doesn't matter at all, should be thinking about design and user experience with everything they do. It's just that simple. They have to be. They should be. Now, if you don't agree, that's fair enough. Please feel free to stop watching now. If you do agree, though, I'm going to walk through today how to use Adobe XD to build even high fidelity prototypes very, very quickly. The reason I think this is so important is, as I said, I think design and user experience is critical in software development, and these tools now allow us to build high fidelity prototypes that we can show to stakeholders and they can understand the interactions between pieces of our application and get a real feel for what we're trying to build and achieve. And being able to do that quickly and get feedback and iterate very, very quickly is absolutely critical to building a successful application. So we're going to jump straight into the screen now. This is just a plain old Adobe XD screen. I've done nothing but create a quick artboard for an iPhone 6, 7, 8. This is a fairly small phone by today's standards, but I like to design from this as a basis because it allows me to see what it's going to look like on what would have been a normal phone and what would be probably the smallest phone you're going to run on today. Now I have some resources already available. I've got them ready right here, so I'm going to just slap them right on in here. And I'm going to start to lay things out in an order that makes sense to me. Now that I've got all my resources in the artboard, I need to grab them and I'm going to just put them in a group. And that will mean that even if they go off the sides, they're going to stay inside of what we're working with. And we're going to call this artwork because that's basically what this is. This is album art. What I want to build today is a very, very simple mobile interface to a podcast. Strangely enough, we run a podcast and I happen to have some podcasty things, so that's what we're going to work with. Now, I'm going to very quickly lay some of these out, and I'm going to lay them out in some possibly strange places because they're going to go off the screen, and I will explain why shortly here. But just to start with, I'm going to start to get them out and lay them out in something that looks, I think, good. It's not really relevant whether anybody else thinks it looks good at this stage. That's why we're doing this, so we can get feedback on those things very, very quickly, as I said. So I think that all looks about right. Now I've got a play button here. It needs to be moved to the top. And I'm actually going to grab this and toss in another one because we want another one of these. So I'm going to hold down my Alt key and I'm going to just drag and drop that over to here. Now I said I was going to explain this later, so here we go. I have put some of these off the screen because basically what I want this to do is allow us to drag these over and move back and forth between episodes by just swiping across like you would any normal slideshow or carousel. But for now, we are going to put that away and I am going to look at adding some extra content down below. Now, the first thing we're probably going to want is to be able to see what it is that we are actually watching here or listening to. So I'm going to slap in some text. We probably want to have some basic details. And what we do with text when we don't want it to overflow is we turn it into a text area and then we can shrink this down and we can expand that out and it will wrap the text for us, which is what we want. We want one more piece of text here that is going to just be some description. And we do actually want that to be fairly long, so I'm going to just copy and paste that a couple times. All right, so we've got a basic rough layout of some text. Now, the one thing that I do want to do is I want to style this a little bit. I want that to be smaller, and you can just grab this little dot here and shrink those down. I want this one to be just a shade bigger. In fact, let's do it here, 25, maybe 23. All right, that looks good. And I want to make that pink because we like pink. I'm going to make it the same pink we've got up there. I don't actually want these to be gray. I want them to be a shade of navy, somewhere over here maybe. Okay, and then I'm going to group all of those as well. Now I actually want to have two of these because I want one again off the screen here. And we are going to put those into their own group as well to make sure that they don't go off. All right, now the next thing I want to do is I want to actually make a copy of that down here. And I want to pull it out of that group and shrink it down just a little bit. And behind that, I want to add a text box. But I'm finding that I don't have enough space in my artboard. Adobe XD has some really great features that allow us to kind of simulate working on a real device. So we are going to extend our artboard beyond where it goes to right now. In fact, we're going to extend it quite a bit. And that allows us to mimic what a phone would do. You can see there's a little bar here. And when we run this, it will allow us to pretend that we're able to scroll inside of this. But for now, I'm just going to throw in a rectangle, center that, put it behind our episode text, center that. We're going to make our rectangle the same color as our episode text. I'm going to change the episode text, obviously, to be something a little bit lighter. Now, I'm going to take advantage of another really cool feature that Adobe XD has, and that's the repeat grid. This allows us to click on that little guy and just scroll down to add more of these, which makes it really easy to create repeating lists of images, contacts, text like we have here, anything of that sort, and it allows us to be able to modify any single one of them to modify the whole group. So in this case, if I wanted to make the text color different, you can see it adjusts all of them for us all in one go. Now, another thing that we want to do is we want to be able to prove that there are interactions within our application that people can start to get an idea of what our application is going to feel like in the real world. In order to do that, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate our artboard so we have an exact copy of it. Now this is where we start to get into the things that are off the screen. Now what I want to do next is I want to first off resize this one so it matches all the others, and I'm going to move it to where the cookies are. And the cookies I am going to shift even further out. Now I want to resize our iceberg so it matches what the main one used to be. We'll center that again, make sure that the play button is reasonably in line with where it used to be. I'm not going to make all this absolutely exact because the idea here is that I just want to give you a prototype so you can start to get an idea of what this would look like in the real world. We also want to go down here and we want to shift all of our episode text this way. Now I'm going to hit the prototype section here. The first thing I want to do is I want to click on our artwork section and I want to grab this triangle over to our second artboard. Now I don't want my trigger to be a tap, I want it to be a drag because we want to be able to drag these across as we said earlier, and I do want it to be an auto animate. Now on this side I want to do the exact opposite. I want to drag this one to our first artboard, again drag and auto animate. And what this is going to allow us to do now is to hit play up here. I'll bring this up so you can see the whole thing. So what we can see here now is that we have an interface that looks just like a normal iPhone interface would. We can scroll down to see the stuff at the bottom, and more importantly and more interestingly, we can just drag this thing across and it shows us that animation, what it would look like in the real application, and we can even drag that back. What this does is it gives our stakeholders a much better idea of what we are trying to achieve, and it allows them to see in a fairly high fidelity version what they should expect on their phones, and they can tell us, okay, yes, I like that, or no, I don't like that at all. Do it this way instead. And we can very, very quickly go in and change that. We can build a prototype like this. It usually takes me between 15 and 20 minutes to build something like this. It used to take me that long to build out wireframes. Tools like this are really changing the way that we can look at things as developers, and we should be taking advantage of those things and really making use of the functionality that's available to us. Hopefully that's been helpful to you. There's tons and tons of information about Adobe XD out there. Sketch and Figma are also really great tools that can do much the same, so be sure to check those out as well and decide what tool is best for you. Until next time, thanks for watching.